Have you ever had a moment that was so perfect, so still, that you knew it was fragile? A moment you wanted to bottle up and keep forever, because some deep, primal part of you whispers that it can't last? This is the story of the day my perfect life shattered. Not with a scream, but with a silence. A silence that was more deafening than any noise I'd ever heard. It all started with a phone call I wasn't supposed to hear. You see, my wife, Clara, she forgot to end the call, and what I heard shattered my soul. The morning it happened was like 1,000 others, painted in the soft, golden light of a Saturday. The smell of coffee and bacon filled our home, a home we had built together over 12 years. I was at the stove, flipping pancakes, our daughter Lily's favorite, shaped like clumsy hearts. Lily, 7 years old with her mother's wild curls and my serious eyes, was chattering away about a dream she'd had involving a unicorn and a skateboard. And then there was Clara, my Clara. She moved around the kitchen in her worn-out robe, her laughter a melody that was the soundtrack to my happiest days. She came up behind me, wrapping her arms around my waist, resting her cheek against my back. "My hero," she whispered, and I could hear the smile in her voice. I felt like the luckiest man alive. This was everything I had ever wanted. Family, a home, love. I turned around and kissed her. A soft, lingering kiss that tasted of coffee and a future I took for granted. If I had known that was the last true kiss we would ever share, I would have held on forever. But you can't hold on to a ghost, and that's what my wife was already becoming. I met Clara in college. She was an art history major, all flowing skirts and eyes that saw beauty in cracked pavement and fading graffiti. I was an engineering student, pragmatic, logical, my world defined by numbers and formulas. She was the color that splashed onto my grayscale canvas. Our first date, I took her to a lecture on structural integrity. She took me to a midnight showing of an obscure French film. I was lost, and I never wanted to be found. I proposed to her on a rainy Tuesday, not on a bridge or a mountain, but in our tiny apartment, with a ring I'd saved for 6 months to buy, while she was covered in paint and frustration over a canvas she couldn't get right. She said yes through tears, and we made love on the paint-splattered drop cloth. 2 young souls promising each other forever. Our wedding was small, her parents beaming, my mother already adoring the woman who had softened her serious son. We bought this house. We brought Lily home from the hospital, a tiny, squalling miracle that completed our universe. For years it was perfect, or so I believed. The first crack, so small I barely noticed it, appeared about a year ago. Clara became distant. It wasn't anything I could pinpoint, not a fight or an accusation. It was a quiet retreat. The late nights at her art gallery became more frequent. Her laughter didn't come as easily. She'd stare out the kitchen window, a faint line of worry between her brows, and when I'd ask what was wrong, she'd just smile, a little too quickly, and say, "Nothing, my love, just tired." I believed her. I thought it was the stress of managing the gallery, of motherhood, of life. I tried to be more helpful. I took on more chores, made sure dinner was ready, handled Lily's bedtime routine. I bought her flowers for no reason. I wrote her love notes and tucked them into her purse. But the distance only seemed to grow, a silent, chilling expanse I didn't know how to cross. I was an engineer. I could build a bridge to withstand any physical force, but I had no blueprint for the fault lines opening in my own marriage. That Saturday, after our perfect breakfast, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her face, for a fraction of a second, tightened. "It's the gallery," she said, already moving towards the hallway for privacy. "Probably another shipment issue. I'll just be a minute." I nodded, focused on helping Lily pour a comically large amount of syrup onto her pancake heart. A few minutes later, my own phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Clara. I swiped to answer. "Oh, forgot something, honey?" Already on my lips. But there was no voice on the other end. Just the sound of her. Already on another call. Her voice tinny through the speaker. She had but dialed me. I was about to hang up when I heard it. A man's voice. Deep, unfamiliar. "Are you alone?" he asked. And Clara, my Clara, let out a sigh that was pure, unadulterated relief. Finally, she breathed. Yes, he's distracted with Lily. God, I needed to hear your voice. My blood turned to ice. I stood there in my sunny kitchen, my daughter's happy chatter fading into a dull roar in my ears. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I was a prisoner chained to this horrific private broadcast. I know, my love, the man's voice crooned. I hate this too. All this pretending. It's killing me. You think it's easy for me? Clara's voice was a raw whisper, filled with an emotion I hadn't heard from her in months. Passion. Coming home to him, lying in our bed, pretending everything is fine. Every time he touches me, I feel like I'm betraying you. The words were physical blows. I stumbled back, leaning against the counter for support. Lily looked up, her little face concerned. Daddy? You okay? I managed a strangled nod, pointing to my phone and miming a work call. She shrugged, a child's easy acceptance, and went back to her unicorn drawing. And I went back to my hell. Soon, Clara. Just be patient a little longer. We have to be smart about this. Smart? She hissed, and I could picture her running a hand through her hair in that frustrated way she had. I'm tired of being smart, Mark. I want to be with you. I want to stop living this lie. Mark. The name echoed in the hollowed-out cavern of my chest. Mark. Her business partner. The man I'd shaken hands with, shared beers with, trusted. He was the one systematically dismantling my life. We will be, Mark soothed. But we need the money. We can't just run off with nothing. We need the security. A cold, sharp clarity began to cut through the suffocating pain. Money. Security. The transfer goes through on the 15th, Clara said, her voice dropping even lower. Once the gallery's quarterly profits hit our joint account, I'll move it. He never checks the balance. He trusts me with everything. I felt the pancakes I'd eaten churn in my stomach. She wasn't just leaving me for another man. She was planning to rob me blind. The joint account held our life savings, the money for Lily's college fund. Everything. She was going to take it all and disappear with Mark. Good, Mark said, a note of greed in his voice that made me want to drive my fist through the wall. With that and the life insurance policy, we can start over anywhere we want. A clean slate. Life insurance policy. The room tilted. I had a substantial policy with Clara as the sole beneficiary. It was supposed to protect her and Lily if anything ever happened to me. Now, it was a motive. A cold dread, far worse than the heartbreak, began to coil in my gut. Were they just planning to leave? Or were they planning something far more permanent for me? I need you to promise me something, Mark. Clara's voice broke, and for a wild, stupid moment, I thought she was going to confess it was all a mistake, a terrible joke. Promise me that once we have the money, we're done. No more waiting. I can't keep doing this to him. Doing this to him? The sheer, staggering hypocrisy of it stole my breath. You're too soft, Clara. Mark's voice was sharp, no longer loving. He's an obstacle, a problem we have to solve. Don't forget what's at the end of this for us. Paradise. There was a long pause. I could hear her shaky exhale. I know. You're right. I love you. I love you too. Now go be the dutiful wife. I'll see you tomorrow at the gallery. We'll finalize everything. The call ended. A click and then silence. But on my end, the line was still open. I was still connected to a dead line, standing in the corpse of my marriage. I slowly pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. The screen glowed, the call timer still ticking. 5 minutes and 47 seconds. The length of time it took to destroy a man's entire world. I must have stood there for an eternity, or maybe only a few seconds. The world had lost all meaning. The cheerful yellow of the kitchen walls seemed to mock me. The smell of syrup was suddenly cloying and sickening. Daddy, can I go watch cartoons? Lily's voice pierced the fog. I looked at her, my little girl, her innocent, trusting face. And in that moment, the heartbreak curdled into something else. Something cold, hard, and razor-sharp. Rage. A pure, incandescent fury that burned away the shock and the pain. They weren't just betraying me. They were threatening my daughter's future. They were planning to take her security, her home, and possibly her father. They wanted to leave her with nothing, or worse, with a mother who was a thief and a conspirator. I would not let that happen. I forced a smile, a feat of engineering more complex than any bridge I'd ever designed. Of course, sweetheart. Go ahead. As she skipped out of the room, I ended the call on my phone. My hands were steady. My mind, for the first time in months, was crystal clear. They thought they were players in a clever game. But they had just made a fatal error. They had given me the one thing a betrayed spouse rarely gets: a warning. They had shown me their entire hand. And now it was my turn to play. The next few days were a performance worthy of an Oscar. I was the loving, oblivious husband. I kissed Clara goodbye in the mornings, my lips a lie against her cheek. I listened to her talk about her day at the gallery, about the new artist Mark was so excited about, and I nodded along, all the while seeing the secret glances, hearing the hidden meanings in every word. The love I had felt for 12 years was gone, scraped out of me, leaving behind a hollow shell filled only with a cold purpose: protection and revenge. I had to be careful. I had to be smart. They had mentioned the 15th. That gave me 2 weeks. 2 weeks to dismantle their paradise before it was even built. My first move was financial. I quietly opened a new bank account in my name only. I contacted a lawyer, a sharp, discreet woman named Evelyn Reed, under the guise of updating my will. I told her everything, playing the recording I had, by pure instinct, started on my phone the moment I realized what I was hearing. Her face was a mask of professional calm, but her eyes held a flicker of fury. We need to secure your assets and, most importantly, establish primary custody for Lily. This recording is damning, but we need to be strategic. She advised me to slowly, methodically, move half of our joint funds into the new account. Not all at once, that would alert Clara, but in small, untraceable transfers that looked like regular bill payments and investments. I was reclaiming what was mine, what was Lily's. The second move was investigative. I hired a private investigator, a grizzled ex-cop who asked no questions and took my money. I needed to know everything about Mark. His finances, his past, his weaknesses. I needed leverage. The investigator came back with a goldmine. Mark had a history. A failed business that had left investors furious, a sealed arrest record for fraud, and, most interestingly, a gambling problem. He was in deep with some very unpleasant people. This wasn't a man in love. This was a predator who had found a vulnerable, unhappy woman and saw a payday. Clara was his mark. The thought made me sick, but it also solidified my resolve. I was not just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting to save my wife from a viper, even if she didn't want to be saved. And that, right there, is the first major twist in this nightmare. The investigation revealed that Mark wasn't just a cheating partner. He was a con man. His entire relationship with Clara was a long con, designed to get his hands on our money. He was playing her just as she was playing me. But the real shock, the one that changed everything, was yet to come. So stay with me, because what I discovered next will make you question everything you think you know about betrayal. The days ticked down towards the 15th. The tension in our house was a physical presence, a thick fog that only I could feel. Clara was nervous, jumpy. She thought it was the guilt of her impending betrayal. She had no idea I was orchestrating my own. The night before the 15th, I pretended to have a severe stomach flu. I groaned. I clutched my stomach. I made a show of being utterly helpless. Clara tucked me into bed, her touch feeling like poison ivy on my skin. "Don't worry, my love," she said, her voice dripping with a false concern that made my teeth ache. "I'll take care of everything. Just rest." I knew she was thrilled. With me incapacitated, her transfer the next day would be even easier. The next morning, she left for the gallery early, giving me a peck on the forehead, her eyes already distant, already with him. The moment the door closed, I was out of bed. I was dressed and in my car within minutes. I drove to a cafe across the street from our bank. I had a perfect view of the entrance. My phone was in my hand, connected to my lawyer. At 9:32 a.m., I saw Clara's car pull in. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it. She's here. I whispered to Evelyn. Remember the plan. Her calm voice came through the speaker. Let her make the transfer. We've already alerted the bank manager. The moment the funds leave your joint account, they'll be frozen and rerouted to your secure account. It will look like a system error. It will buy us time. I watched Clara walk into the bank, her posture straight, her steps determined. She was going to steal from me, from her own daughter. The last vestiges of the man who loved her withered and died in that moment. 20 agonizing minutes later, she walked out. But she wasn't walking with the confident stride of someone who had just secured her future. She was walking quickly, her head down, her phone pressed to her ear. She was talking to Mark. I could imagine the conversation. The money's gone. The system glitched. My phone buzzed. It was Evelyn. It's done. The transfer is frozen. She tried to move the entire balance. I felt a grim satisfaction. Phase 1 was complete. Now for Phase 2. I started the car and drove to the one place I knew they would be, the gallery. I was going to confront them, but not in the way they expected. I pushed open the heavy glass door of the gallery. The space was cold and modern, all white walls and polished concrete. Clara and Mark were huddled in the back office, the door slightly ajar. I could hear their raised, frantic voices. What do you mean it's gone? Mark was snarling. I don't know. The teller said there was a system error, that the account was flagged. They're investigating. Clara was crying, real panic tears. This is a disaster. Without that money, we're finished. Do you understand? Finished. I stepped into the doorway. Finished with what, exactly? They froze, two deer caught in the headlights of my rage. Clara's face was a mask of sheer terror. Mark's quickly shifted from shock to a smarmy, false calm. David, what are you doing here? Clara said you were sick. Mark took a step forward, positioning himself slightly in front of her. My wife. I'm feeling much better now. I kept my voice even cold. I looked only at Clara. I came to see my wife. I heard she had a little trouble at the bank today. Clara's hand flew to her mouth. How did you know? I let a slow, cold smile spread across my face. It wasn't a smile of happiness. It was the smile of a predator. I know everything, Clara. I know about the money. I know about the life insurance. I know about your plan to run away with him. I finally turned my gaze to Mark. I know everything about you, Mark. Your failed business. Your fraud arrest. Your little gambling problem. How much do you owe the guys down at the Silver Stallion Casino? Anyway, 50,000? 100. Mark's face went pale. His carefully constructed facade crumbled, revealing the weak, desperate man underneath. You have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? I took a step into the room. I know you targeted my wife. I know you saw a lonely, unhappy woman and saw a way to pay off your debts. This was never about love. It was always about the money. That's not true. Clara cried out, but her voice lacked conviction. She was looking at Mark, at the panic in his eyes, and I could see the first seeds of doubt taking root. Isn't it, Clara? I said softly, pulling out my phone. Let me play you something. A call I heard a couple of weeks ago. You forgot to hang up. I pressed play. Their voices, their treacherous, damning conversation, filled the silent gallery. I watched her face as she heard her own voice, plotting to rob me, discussing my life insurance, saying how my touch felt like a betrayal to him. She crumpled, sinking into a chair, sobs racking her body. David, I'm so sorry, but I wasn't done. This was the second twist, the one that would break her completely. You think that's the worst of it, Clara? You think your betrayal is the center of this story? You're wrong. I looked at Mark. Tell her, Mark. Tell her about Sarah. Tell her about the woman in Oak Creek. The one you promised the same thing to. The one you left penniless when her money ran out. Clara's head snapped up. What? What is he talking about, Mark? Mark was backing away, his hands up. He's lying. He's trying to turn you against me. I pulled a photograph from my jacket pocket, handed by my investigator. It was of Mark, his arm around a blonde woman, in front of a house in Oak Creek. It was dated just 8 months ago. Her name is Sarah Miller. He cleaned out her inheritance. She filed a police report, but there wasn't enough evidence. Sound familiar? The look on Clara's face was a beautiful, terrible thing to behold. It was the shattering of a delusion, the realization that she hadn't found a soulmate. She had been groomed by a parasite, that her great love story was a transaction. Her love, her betrayal, her shattered family. It was all for nothing. You used me? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Mark didn't answer. He just glared at me, a look of pure, venomous hatred. You've ruined everything. No, I said, my voice flat and final. You ruined it. Now get out of my gallery. I owned the building, a fact he had conveniently forgotten in his plans. He spat on the floor, then turned and fled, a coward to the end. The bell on the door jingled as he left, the sound of an ending. And then it was just the two of us. Me and the wreckage of the woman I loved. She was sobbing, broken, utterly defeated. I felt no pity. I felt nothing but a cold, empty victory. The money is safe, Clara, I said. I've moved it. I filed for divorce. My lawyer has the recording, the evidence of your intent to commit fraud. You will get nothing. You will not get primary custody of Lily. You will have supervised visits, if the court is feeling generous. She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. David, please, I made a terrible mistake. I was lost. I don't care, I interrupted. And the words were the truest I had ever spoken. You were my everything, and you threw it away for a lie. You don't get to be lost anymore. You are found out. I turned and walked out of the gallery, out of her life. The sun was shining. The world was still turning. I got in my car and I drove to my daughter's school. I sat in the parking lot and I waited for the bell to ring. I waited for the only thing in my life that was still pure, still true. And as I sat there, the tears finally came. Not for Clara, not for my broken marriage, but for the innocence we had stolen from our little girl. The stable world we had shattered. But this story isn't over yet. You think you know how it ends? With the cheating wife getting her comeuppance and the wronged husband moving on? There's one more twist. The biggest one of all. It happened 6 months later on the day of our divorce hearing. And it's the reason I'm telling you this story today. So please, if you're feeling shocked right now, just wait. The final revelation is what truly redefines the meaning of betrayal. Stick with me. The 6 months that followed were a study in rebuilding. Lily was confused and heartbroken, her small world fractured. I did my best to be both mother and father, to provide a stable, loving home. I sold the house, the memories in every room too painful to bear. We moved into a small, bright apartment near a park. It was a new beginning. The divorce proceedings were ugly. Clara, now realizing the full extent of her loss, fought for custody, for assets, for anything she could get. But the evidence was overwhelming. Her own words on that recorded call sealed her fate. She was granted minimal, supervised visitation. She had lost everything. Her family, her home, her reputation, and the man she thought loved her. I saw her occasionally during the custody exchanges. She looked hollowed out, a ghost of the vibrant woman I had married. There was no satisfaction in it, only a profound sadness for the life we could have had. I was learning to live with the scar tissue, building a new kind of life, one of quiet routine and dedicated fatherhood. The white-hot rage had cooled into a permanent, dull ache. The final divorce hearing was a formality. We were in the courthouse, sitting on opposite sides of the aisle, waiting for the judge to make it official. Clara kept looking at me, her eyes filled with a desperate, unspoken plea. I ignored her. There was nothing left to say. The judge was about to bring down the gavel when Clara's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client would like to make a statement before the final decree is issued. The judge nodded, looking bored. I sighed, expecting a last-ditch, emotional appeal for mercy. Clara stood up. She was trembling, but her voice, when it came, was clear and strong. Your Honor, David, there are no words to express the depth of my regret. I know you see me as a monster. I see myself as one. What I did was unforgivable. She turned to look directly at me, her tears flowing freely now. But there is something you don't know. Something I have to say. I stared back, my face a stone mask. I was done with her revelations. The call, she said, her voice breaking. The call you heard. It wasn't real. A cold trickle of dread dripped down my spine. What fresh hell was this? What are you talking about? I said, my voice low and dangerous. She took a shaky breath. Mark, he wasn't just a con man. He was blackmailing me. The air left the room. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. It started a year ago, she continued, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush. He found out about a mistake I made, long before I met you, David. Terrible, stupid mistake. I was young and I got involved with the wrong person. There were photos, compromising photos. Mark somehow found out. He threatened to send them to you, to post them online, to ruin me, to ruin us. He said he would destroy our family. My mind was reeling, trying to catch up, to find the lie. The money, the life insurance, I stammered. It was his plan. All of it, she cried. He forced me to play along. He scripted that phone call. David, he knew you were home. He knew you might hear. He made me say those things. He said it was the only way to make it believable, to make you the villain in my story, so I would have no choice but to go with him and give him the money. He said if I didn't, he would send the pictures to your company, to our friends, to Lily's school. I was so scared. I was trapped. The third and final twist. It wasn't a love affair. It was a hostage situation. The distance, the late nights, the whispered conversations. It wasn't passion. It was terror. She wasn't betraying me. She was trying to protect me, to protect our family from a scandal she was too ashamed to confess. The recording. I played it back in my mind. Every time he touches me, I feel like I'm betraying you. Was that the line of a woman in love? Or the line of a woman being coerced? Feeling the touch of her husband as a betrayal because she was keeping a terrible secret from him? I can't keep doing this to him. Doing what to him? Lying? Or putting him in danger? I looked at her, truly looked at her, for the first time in a year. I saw the raw, unvarnished terror in her eyes, the same terror I had mistaken for guilt. I saw the woman I had loved, broken and cornered. Why didn't you tell me? The question was a ragged whisper, torn from the deepest part of me. I was ashamed, she sobbed, and I was terrified he would carry out his threat. I thought I could handle it. I thought if I just gave him what he wanted, he would go away. I was trying to save us, David. In the most stupid, cowardly way possible. I was trying to save us. The gavel fell, the sound echoing in the stunned silence of the courtroom. The divorce was final. The legal bonds were severed. But in that moment, a new, more complicated truth had been born. I had spent months consumed by a righteous fury, planning my revenge against a woman I believed had willingly shattered our life. I had been her judge, jury, and executioner. I had seen her as the villain. But what if she was just another victim? What if my cold, calculated revenge had been inflicted on a prisoner? I stood up, my legs weak. Clara stood across from me, the decree in her hand, her entire body shaking. The love was gone. The hate was gone. All that was left was a devastating, soul-crushing regret. A regret for words unsaid, for trust not given, for a war I had fought against the wrong enemy. I had gotten my revenge. I had destroyed the man who threatened my family. I had secured my daughter's future. I had won. So why did I feel like I had lost everything? This story began with a call I wasn't supposed to hear. It ends with a truth I never wanted to know. Betrayal is not always a choice. Sometimes, it's a chain, forged from fear and shame. And sometimes, the person you think shattered your soul was just trying to protect the pieces. If this story of love, doubt, and a betrayal that was more than it seemed touched you, if it made you feel that roller coaster of heartbreak and shock, then do something for me. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because on this channel, Betrayal Tells, we uncover the secrets that hide behind closed doors. And the next heartbreak I share, it will leave you absolutely speechless. Don't miss it.